Christie Keuchel. She is the head of Oakcrest School in Vienna, Virginia. Did I mention that you can find everything you need to know about Oakcrest on that table back there, which is next to Daryl's insanely priced books, also back there at $10 each. Christie has a bachelor's degree in English and secondary education from Suffolk University in Boston, and a master's in educational administration from St. John Fisher University in Rochester, New York. My confirmation saint, St. John Fisher, Bishop of Rochester in England, yes. With over 20 years' experience as a teacher, mentor, and school leader, serving in a variety of schools, 15 of those years at Oakcrest. Previously, she was the associate head of school for students, director of student life, director of middle and upper school, and a theology teacher at Oakcrest. All those are very confusing titles. Now you're head of school. We know exactly what you're doing. Christie is passionate about helping girls grow into young women of virtue. I'm all in favor of that. And who are happy and equipped to help their families and communities. She enjoys daily life traveling with her husband, Frank, who has traveled here to be with her. And she is going to talk about daring daughters forming women with spirit. So, thank you, Christie.
Okay. It's great to see everybody today. I wanted to just comment on Tim's talk, when he talked about having a messy home. I can relate. I grew up in a family with 10 children, so many siblings, and one evening we were out for my sister, one of my younger sisters, she was making her first confession that night, and my older sister was driving at the time, and so we had two different cars. I'm sure you can relate to the car situation in a big family. So some of us left the church early to go home and do our homework, so we thought. And we get home, and my sister, thankfully, she had a good perception and realized that the door, when we drove up our driveway, the back door was wide open and just did not seem very safe for us to go in. So she drove through the backyard, down the neighbor's driveway, across the street to our other neighbors, and had the good sense to call 911. And the police came and realized that we had been broken into, and they were telling us, it looks like your house was ransacked. We said, no, actually, that's what it always looks like. So I can relate to that. It is messy growing up in a big family, but it is amazing, and I just am so grateful for the Bulls, for all the stories that you shared today with us, because and then in Tim as well, and thank you as well for also just the great atmosphere that we have today here, and being able to talk about just raising families, raising young men and women to be saints. And that's just such an incredible opportunity to be in this room, and thank you for inviting me. So my goal really today is to just share with you not only sustainable and practical advice, but really a vision for raising daughters with a spirit of adventure, freedom, and optimism. Joyful women with purpose, women who dare to be saints. We've heard a lot about that today, and I think it's possible. I know it's possible. I've seen it happen. And I just want to say, first of all, that it's so easy to get focused on the urgent matters and, the things that are drawing your attention in the moment. Just the diapers or the driving or the, constant need of this one or that one. And it's important to really, in a day like today, can help us to do that, just to take a step back and just see the big picture. breathe and relax, because you are in this place. You have been given all the grace that you need, and everything inside of you, and you're together with your spouse. You have what it takes to do this. And I know that together with a community, as we've been talking about today, relying on others and getting outside of ourselves and really being expansive and thinking, who needs me? Who needs to learn from me? And to trust that that's happening just by you doing the daily things, the small things of every day. So St. Josemaria, who we've heard also a lot about today, somewhat here and there, he had sustainable advice for all of us. He said, we mustn't squander this period of the world's history which God has entrusted to each one of us. So really, I think we have to take that to heart and think this time that we're in, the challenges that we face, all of the things that we hear that sort of we're up against and raising our family, whatever size they are, go for big. It's amazing, but when it's not possible to do big family, you can open your doors to others and create that environment and culture, whatever your circumstances are. So daring daughters, forming women with spirit. Your daughter can discover who she is, to develop a sense of being and knowing that she is a daughter of God. It happens through your attention and effort with her, your time, your presence. You as the parents, I just want you to think, wow, God gave this child to us. You really have what it takes. You have the tools to guide, develop, and cultivate her intelligence and her capacity for self-determination, her faith, to help her discover her mission, and to have the courage and the strength to stay the course for her entire life. It's possible. So to lead your daughters to be daring, to have a spirit of adventure, and to live a life full of purpose, I want to focus on 3 areas. So we heard a little bit about this: personal mission or vocation. Cultivating good habits and virtue is number 2, and then developing a healthy sense of personal freedom and responsibility. So when we talk about mission, there's really nothing more thrilling to a young girl than to be inspired with the idea that she has a gift to give. Only she is able to give that gift to the world, each in her own way. Our girls need to understand that they and their gifts are unrepeatable. It's the way that she will understand the world and create and cultivate her family, and it will be her own gift to give. So in a recent conversation that I had with a young woman, I've taught her and I've known her for many years, I learned that she's a project manager for a firm that designs and repurposes old spaces in DC. The work, she told me, she does is difficult, but she's learning a lot in the process, and she's grateful for those that she works with, and she's being stretched professionally. But without skipping a beat, she said that she works with many people, and she's discovered tragically that one by one, many of them have left the practice of their faith. She said that it was that discovery, that separation from God, that has motivated her to want to build relationships with the people that she works with. She sees they are interested in her and that she has tremendous responsibility towards them. And she wants to give her best, and she cares for each one's interior life and their eternal soul. Personally, I was struck by her humility. She's doing her professional work well and caring for the people around her in a deeply profound way. She is someone who understands her mission, that she in her workplace has the opportunity to light it up and to be the salt and the light for others with her contribution towards her work, but also towards the people with whom she works. In response to a journalist's questions about his views on women, St. Josemaria said the following: "A woman's femininity is genuine only if she is aware of the beauty of this contribution for which there is no substitute, and if she incorporates it into her own life." He continued by saying that to fulfill her mission, a woman has to develop her own personality and not let herself be carried away by a naive desire to imitate. That would tend to put her in an inferior position and leave her own qualities unfulfilled. So we can encourage our girls to think magnanimously and compliment them when they do. An example, a 7th grader I know every day she gets on the bus, and this can't be easy. The bus driver may not be in, the best of moods. She walks up in a very cheerful manner every morning, asking him, "How are you?" Trying to be happy for him, thinking of, I just want to encourage what is happening here. She's coming outside of herself, her own interests and concerns. This is growth. There's so many examples of instances like this where the girls, as you see them, they're really making this effort and coming, trying to be good, to be great. And so we are really made for more than comfort. We're going for greatness here. I've met young women over the years who are struggling, living life unfulfilled, sometimes a bit empty. They may have all the financial resources, time, or cushy lives, but the common theme that I have seen at times is that of being sad, bored, and not inspired. So I share this with you today to help think of ways that we can help our girls to be bold and not stuck in circumstances. The hard work is in helping each one to find out, who am I? Who am I called to be? This is the mission. We each have to discover who I am and be who I'm called to be. And it has to be figured out by each person. So here are some ways that we can guide them. Growing in virtue. So cultivating good habits in our own lives is the way to guide our girls, our daughters, to be the example. It will sustain us for a long time, and then these virtues that we're building, they develop into our character. So to use our freedom wisely, we must not only know the truth, but we have to develop all of the virtues. To name a few of the big ones, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom, prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. Many, many virtues stem from these big virtues in our lives, and it's up to us to really try to help our daughters and help ourselves to grow on that path. It takes work, it takes mentors, parents and teachers doing the hard things. It's really hard, as you know, pointing out areas that we have to grow in. So I think it was mentioned earlier about having a good spiritual director in our life. That person can see things that we might not be able to see. And in turn, we are doing that for our young people. We have to direct them and guide them and help them to see. We show them by our example in stopping to be with them and spending time with them. So I encourage you to help your daughter to grow in understanding of her gifts and strengths and help her to see and point out the areas that are difficult for her to overcome. So we can develop ourselves so that we can best use our knowledge, our abilities, and contribute to any place that we are. So building our character. I want to just share a small story that is really something that struck me about the importance of really developing these virtues and these habits from an early age, that it's not something you want to wait to do until a later time when it's sometime, you think it's going to be easier. Actually, we know it's going to get harder if we don't form ourselves when we're young and form our young people from the moment they're born, really, is when it's happening. But it struck me not too long ago. I saw an elderly woman. I've known her for a long time. She was in the final months of her life. I would go visit her. She had this tremendous capacity of welcoming everyone to her home in her final days. I would go and I would sit with her and just be there in her beautiful sunny room. She had her chair and all of her essential items surrounding her. She sat there in her suffering. And she asked me how I was doing. And she also would want to pray with me and share something funny or interesting with me. I mean, it really struck me that here she is, this woman that in the last days of her life, she lived them the way that she had trained herself to live throughout her life. That didn't just happen in those final months of her life. It was an outpouring of the way she had always lived her life, and she had trained herself, and it's not easy to do that, right? But that's not what we're going for. We're going for greatness, getting outside of our comfort zone, embracing challenge and leaning towards it and seeing those in need. So putting time for faith, for God, for others, finding joy in suffering, which we know suffering abounds in our life, but it's how we see it and how we help our young people to be inspired in the suffering and in the challenge that comes. So some ways to understand your daughter in order to help her understand herself. You can ask yourself questions about her aptitudes. It may help you just to understand her better. They'll vary with the age of the person. So I have many questions here. I'm only just going to share a few. But for example, what motivates her to action? And how does she do her work or her study? Does she give it time? Is it something she would rather not do? If so, how does she face it? When she's faced with challenges, how does she approach them? And how does she interact with others, her parents, siblings, other family members, and peers? So once you start to see your daughter for who she is, you can reflect, pray, and guide her to see where can she mature and grow. It's good and necessary to explain to your daughter what you see in her, what you notice, how something comes across, what reactions you see her having. I encourage you to find the right moment to talk about it. So maybe a car ride, taking a walk together, scheduling a time with just mom or dad. And you can also understand your children better by asking others whom you trust to give you some advice or pointers. So you can seek out the advice of wise guides in our lives. We can use literature or books to discover new ways of seeing one's life or seeing others. So give examples of excellent human beings from history, literature, and also present-day examples. Women are relational, so we have to use that as a strength. And we need to find role models who are real people, who are struggling themselves, and who can be someone that can be a great guide to your daughter. Earlier this year, I was chatting with a young girl and her father. We got on the topic of choosing good books to read. Honestly, I noticed she wasn't very interested in reading for leisure. And I thought, oh, that's so tragic. What can I do to help her? I was determined. I really wanted to help her find something that she loved. So I started to ask her what sort of books she liked. I gave a few ideas. The very next day, I kid you not, she came up to me I was in the middle of a conversation, and she just wanted to burst. She was just bursting with excitement to tell me, I started reading this book, and I want to tell you all about it. And I was so excited. I offered, let's talk about it. Do you want to meet and talk about it? And she said yes. So every week we meet at lunch. She comes to my office and spends time with me, and we talk about the value of being challenged in manners, friendship, discovery. So I just, share this because when your daughter, when a young girl comes to you with something that she's trying to do, find ways to cultivate this good use of her time and join her on this path of discovery. You may find something new on it as well and build a stronger relationship with her, which I certainly have myself. A life of virtue is an outgrowth of being oneself, but it takes practice and time, effort, and encouragement. It doesn't happen overnight. So we need to learn to speak the language of virtue in our life. We need daring daughters to go out in society, leaving a legacy, making an impact, and living the kind of life that is worthy of emulation. So my last point that I wanted to delve into a little bit more is, helping to form an environment of freedom and responsibility. And I think we heard a lot about that today, and it's what happens in the home, and then what happens, and to the best of our ability, in any environment we put our children into. So we want to foster that atmosphere so that we can create the foundation for our daughters, for the girls, to dare to soar. So you may recall this novel, Little Women, by Louisa May Alcott. Her story begins with the 4 March girls, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. They're sitting in the living room, lamenting their poverty. I'm imagining they're sitting around the fireplace because it was right around Christmas. The girls decide that they're going to buy themselves a present in order to brighten their Christmas. But then they change their minds, and they decide that instead of buying presents for themselves, they're going to buy presents for their mother, Marmee. Marmee comes home later that day with a letter from her husband, Mr. March, the girl's father. He's serving as a Union chaplain in the Civil War. The letter inspires the girls to bear their burdens more cheerfully and not to complain about their poverty. So I just want to point out a few things, that this is a family that's founded on selfless giving, generosity, and service. So the way that these girls are able to come outside of themselves and go from, wanting to cheer themselves up, buying myself a present, thinking about me, and then to get to the point where they want to buy their mother a present, and then they actually want to bear their burdens more cheerfully and not to complain about their poverty. That doesn't just happen by chance. It happens because their family has been founded as your families are, as you are doing, by being here today, by taking time out of your busy lives to be here and to work on this. This is you, founded on love, selfless giving, generosity, and service. So how can we do that, more and better to really help our daughters to grow in this area? And another thing that I wanted to point out about this example is that I can picture this scene where these girls are sitting around in their living room talking as sisters, which, growing up in a family with 6 sisters, you can see the progression of the woes and you're complaining about all the things that you don't have or what you want, or this person has that and that. And then through that conversation and through, it only takes one person sort of thinking, hey, what about mom? Or what is dad doing? Or what is this person doing? And then to help you, it helps the others to think about, okay, I don't need to be caught in my own trap of my mind and, the things that are poor me kind of thing. So it's not just a quaint story, but it's showing a life that's worthy of emulation, and it's profound. So inside the home, being a good daughter, a good sister, and understanding her role in the family, in family life, and how our siblings form us. Parents and children, we need to have time together. I would say have the patience to waste time together, not to always have to be so scheduled and going here and going there and always, one thing to the next. We have to have leisure time. We have to have time where we can rest and be. And that's really how you're going to get to know your children, is by really spending time, developing family traditions that your kids look forward to, which we heard about today. And there's so many ways that each family is going to do that in your own way, with your own character, with your own interests. So monthly and daily routines that are special. And you're going to see that these are the memories that your children will carry with them, and really the things that they're going to want to pass on to their own children when the time comes. I want to say a couple things about dads and daughters. We heard a little bit about that too today, but just it can't be emphasized enough that a dad is so key to your daughter's development. And a daughter in the eyes of her father is so, so important. So dads, find time to be with your daughters. To all of you dads, can you recall the last time that you took your daughter out on a date? Not necessarily a grocery run or some other errand, but maybe an intentional time when you gave her your undivided attention. So maybe that's something to think about. And then you think, well, how in a large family can that happen? Creative courage and St. Joseph can help. A little example, that when my parents were first married, they bought 2 season tickets to a pro hockey team in a nearby city. My dad is a huge hockey buff and couldn't get enough of it. So they wanted to ensure they had date nights, and he got to enjoy a hockey game. But by the time that we kids started getting old enough, our dad would let us choose a game each season, and we'd go with him. So I have a lot of fond memories of the road trip, getting there early. We'd get a bite to eat. We'd watch the pre-game practice, and he would point out all these different skills that the players had that I would probably never have noticed if he didn't, notice or point out these different skills that they had and their talents. And then the late night return trips, talking about anything and everything, because cell phones were just not a thing, thankfully. It helped us to forge a relationship and a knowledge of one another that is such a pillar to me to this day. So fathers, model for your daughters how a man should treat a lady, like a queen and with respect, delicately and tenderly. Put her on a pedestal, but it's best not to overindulge. And then when she's ready to have friendships with boys and begin a courtship, be ready and available to put the boys in their place when need be. She needs your availability and presence, and sometimes more so into young adulthood and later in life if she's fortunate enough to have you with her as she herself matures into motherhood and family life. Moms and daughters. To mothers, I recently spoke with a good friend, a mother of 10 children, all adults, and now a grandmother to many. She recently asked her 4 daughters how they chose such adventurous paths in their lives. They responded by sharing how their parents were always open to an adventure with them, taking risks in travel, showing them new places, or encouraging them to see and experience new ideas. The woman is the key to human and personal development of those who are in her scope of care. Her husband, children, the family. That is what she does, the most profound thing that she does. And she knows each one with a certain depth because as Our Lady, she ponders them in her heart. And this is the natural gift of being a woman, knowing the others and know how to bring out the best of their potential and who they are. This is a good mother. So some ideas to create a broad cultural environment in the home, it stems from the mother. So know your gifts and talents and cultivate them first for your own happiness and for family life. Because when you're happy and flourishing, then you know what you have is within you is given to the others just by that joy and that interest and that availability that you have to grow and to develop yourself. So introduce them to good music early, good reading, projects. You could be do-it-yourself project. Let's paint the garage or reorganize the pantry. Entertainment, board games, painting nails, lessons in storytelling. Have spontaneous adventure. Let's camp in the backyard, maybe you and all of the siblings and your dad, and I'll help prep everything. Not going to go out there myself. Go hiking on a lazy Saturday afternoon, or maybe try a new workout class. Just being, caring for those outside the family. Notice who's around you, who's next door to you in the neighborhood. It doesn't have to be, miles away. And then to not be in competition with each other. So as women, it's important to realize we can't have a competitive nature with one another. We have to try to build one another up. So we don't want to see people as a block to success. See them as part of that journey together. So the broader cultural and intellectual background that a woman has, the greater impact it will have on her children. A woman who has an education, whatever she chooses to do with it, elevates the society around her. So the key point is that we want our girls to appreciate family life in a special way, to have high regard for the work of mothers in the home, and to look forward to forming a family, relish being the heart of the family and the first educator of your children. Now, outside the home, which stems from what happens on the inside, so to recap, we know that our girls have a mission. We talked about how achieving good habits helps our girls to grow in virtue. And then we covered how you as mom and dad have a vital role in immersing our girls in an environment of freedom and responsibility in the home. So therefore, the formation our girls receive includes all aspects of their lives. Homes are the primary place and then formal education. We have to be the daring ones. We have to trust our girls to use the formation that they have received to impact the world and to become women who dare to be saints. Yet, how will they impact the world? We want to put our girls in an authentic environment where they will flourish, and you will know it when you see it, where your daughter is free to be good. A good integrated education fosters this goal and helps the individual to reach their highest potential in all its dimensions. So that is why a good education should be intellectually and personally challenging. So there are 2 views of women's education that both have positive elements, that we should find those positive elements, but then also realize that they can fall short of the mark of what an integrated education or an education for life should be. So on one hand, there's a lot of pressure that exists to put emphasis on an education towards preparing young women to be wives and mothers, rather than on one that is academically demanding and challenging. because the vocation of most women will be marriage and family life, and because in any case women are mothers, either biologically and spiritually or only spiritually. On the other hand, there's a view that women must compete and be equal to men at the highest level and in every sphere, and that girls' education should put them on this track. So oftentimes it's done with worthy goals of wanting to make a positive impact on society and showcasing how successful a woman can be. I'd like to just offer a way of looking at education as being integrated. So Edith Stein once said, "The world does not need what women have, the world needs what women are." A solid integrated education is one that prepares a young woman to make the most of her God-given abilities, to have a healthy interior freedom, to discern the vocation God has given her, and to live it with freedom and commitment. This means that she's ready to go on to her choice of a college if she chooses to, and to become a wife and a mother or not, depending again on her vocation and her choice. She will have developed intellectually and humanly, morally to her highest potential insofar as she can when she is ready to leave the home. And she will be a person of character, capable of taking ownership for her choices, capable of making a positive impact on others and exercising social responsibility. If she has a vocation to marriage, she will, as an educated woman, be a companion for her husband, an intelligent and good mother, and possibly an excellent homeschooler, should that be the case. She will be capable of having a full-time or part-time career outside the home, depending on her vocation, on her choice. And she'll be able to support the family should unforeseen circumstances, should her husband be unable to do so due to sickness or death, etc. And then also to think about that there are different seasons in the life of a woman, that throughout the course of her life, she will have time to develop herself and contribute in a variety of different ways. And I just want to encourage helping your daughters to develop their God-given talents, to be confident and prepared to contribute with their feminine gifts, to learn an appreciation for men, that we complement one another, that we help each other, and that happens first in the father-daughter relationship, and to help them not to see boys as competition, but as complementing one another. So we need to guide them to be prepared so that they are confident and self-assured, that their strength of intellect and will won't be swayed by the idols and errors that can distract them from their mission. They will understand themselves, they have developed their interests and abilities, and they are a delight to be around because they have learned how to temper their bad habits, develop virtues, and think of others. This is what an integrated education and life aims at, to be able to discover mission and to have the courage and strength to stay the course for her entire life. Your daughters are the key to the future of humanity. They are revered as future mothers. So aim to help them to be filled with the joy of being daughters of God in order to dare to know themselves, dare to try, be not afraid, and dare to stand on their own when they leave the environment in which they were raised in and go out to be salt and light to the world. Daring daughters, seeing life as an adventure.